What else you want?
Just an iPhone.
Get my kids. Y'all give me some love. I love y'all.
Love you too. Dada,
Yeah.
can you give me a 15 to Marvel?
Yeah, I got you. I'm gonna get you a new phone too, okay?
I want a 15.
On the 15 like me?
Yeah.
Got you, okay?
To Marvel.
Take me from my so-called friends. So I can get wrong anyway. 9 times out of 10, the ops ain't gonna do shit. Be their own homies, snaked out. I peep that shit. Stay away from around. Fake niggas.
These were the prophetic words that this 35-year-old Chcago rapper posted just days before his own so-called friends would stand by and watch him bleed out on the concrete. But what you're about to witness is far more disturbing than you could ever imagine. This is the tragic story of Nico Chcago Whitehead.
Money game, bitch, we worldwide. Bitch, I feel real, hey. Been on fucking Gia, bad bitch with dumb chicks and all she do is eat. Never change on the game, cause that's how I be, I'm so 100, I don't know how to be, if a nigga play, I spray that fucking K. Touching on my bank around the gang, cause I don't play. So 100, nigga, I don't play. If I don't know you, I don't wanna know you, I don't play.
On the humid night of June 29, 2024, at approximately 11:10 in the evening, something unthinkable happened on Chicago's west side at 3300 West Franklin Boulevard. A class reunion that was supposed to celebrate old friendships transformed into a scene of absolute betrayal that would shock the entire city and expose the dark underbelly of gang loyalty in America's murder capital. Nico Whitehead, a father of 2 young children, an underground drill rapper with a growing following, and a heavily tattooed Traveler Vice Lord's enforcer who had recently been released from federal prison, arrived at what should have been a safe space among his own people. This was a reunion of the Western House class, a gathering of men who had grown up together in the unforgiving trenches of West Garfield Park and Humboldt Park, the very neighborhoods that had shaped them, scarred them, and bound them together through decades of street warfare. But on this particular night, the bonds of brotherhood that Nico believed were unbreakable would prove to be nothing more than a deadly illusion. The evening started with drinks flowing, old stories being shared, and that familiar street energy that comes when men from the hood reconnect. Then, according to multiple sources, a confrontation erupted, and the catalyst? A woman. Not just any woman, but allegedly the baby mama of one of Nico's childhood friends, someone he had known since sandbox days, someone he called brother. The accusation hung heavy in the air like smoke. Nico had been intimate with his homie's girl. What started as heated words quickly escalated into a physical altercation. It was supposed to be a one-on-one fight, the old school way of settling disputes among men who claimed to live by a code. And Nico, despite being intoxicated on lean, was winning the fight. His hands were moving with the practiced precision of someone who had fought his entire life. Victory seemed certain, but then everything went catastrophically wrong. In a moment that would seal his fate, Nico accidentally shot himself in the leg while pulling his own weapon. The lean in his system had slowed his reflexes, clouded his judgment, made his hands clumsy at the exact moment he needed them most. The gun that was supposed to protect him became the instrument of his vulnerability. As he fell to the ground in pain and confusion, his weapon was ripped from his grasp by his opponent. Then came the pistol whipping. The brutal, metallic thuds of a gun striking flesh and bone echoed through the night air, as Nico was beaten while lying helpless on the pavement. However, this is where the story takes its most disturbing turn. Approximately 8 to 20 of Nico's friends, many wearing matching orange shirts, stood in a circle around him. These were his brothers, his fellow Traveler Vice Lords from the Wild Bunch Money Gang, men who he had stood beside in countless street battles, men he had trusted with his life.
Don't believe they ain't had no guns. I can't believe
that. Man, them niggas
shit,
had one pipe gang. They ain't had no guns out there, boy.
And they did nothing. Not one person stepped forward to help. Not one person returned fire to protect their supposedly beloved brother. Not one person even attempted to provide basic aid as he lay bleeding from his self-inflicted leg wound, vulnerable and defenseless. Instead, they stood there, frozen, whether from intoxication, fear, or something far more sinister, and watched what came next.
Okay, I know he was sitting there like, damn, these niggas gonna really try to kill me.
Man, he sit, man, when he getting hit, he looking like, damn, y'all.
Looking like,
it's like
damn,
that
bro.
look like, damn, y'all ain't finna stop this shit. Like, what the?
At approximately 11:10 in the evening, a figure who hadn't even been involved in the original fight approached the circle. Witnesses would later describe how this unknown gunman walked up to Nico with a terrifying calmness, stood directly over his body, and methodically fired multiple shots into his head and torso. And most disturbingly, one of his so-called friends yelled to the shooter, "Go, come on," urging the murderer to flee the scene rather than attempting to save their dying brother. The shooter walked away casually, and the crowd dispersed like roaches when a light turns on. Nico lay there, bleeding out on the concrete of West Franklin Boulevard, as the friends who should have protected him simply walked away. Emergency responders rushed him to Stroger Hospital, but it was far too late. Nico Chcago Whitehead was pronounced dead, his body riddled with gunshot wounds. Investigators would later recover approximately 20 shell casings from the scene, evidence of the brutal execution that had just taken place in front of a crowd of witnesses. But the questions that haunted Chicago that night were far more disturbing than who pulled the trigger. The questions that millions of people who would later watch the video ask themselves were, why didn't anyone help? How could 20 men watch one of their own die? What kind of brotherhood allows this? To understand how a man surrounded by 20 of his friends could be executed without anyone lifting a finger to help, we need to rewind and understand who Nico Whitehead really was, where he came from, and the deadly prophecy that he made that foretold his own murder with haunting accuracy. Born on January 5, 1989, during the height of Chicago's devastating crack epidemic, Nico entered a world that offered few paths to survival and even fewer paths to prosperity. The streets of West Garfield Park and Humboldt Park, specifically around Chicago Avenue and Trumbull Street, were his classroom, his playground, and his battlefield all at once. This was the section of Chicago's west side that locals called Motown, where corner stores served as social hubs, where junkie traps operated openly, and where hope went to die alongside the countless young men who never made it to their 21st birthday. From an early age, Nico's body became a canvas for his allegiances and aspirations. His full-body tattoos told the story of his life. 5-point Vice Lord stars, stacks of money, pyramids of wealth, and the name Didon sprawled across his abdomen. These weren't just decorative choices. They were declarations of identity in a world where your reputation meant the difference between respect and disrespect, between life and death. As a teenager, Nico aligned himself with the Traveler Vice Lords, a faction of the almighty Vice Lord Nation that emphasized loyalty above all else. More specifically, he became a core member of the Wild Bunch Money Gang, known by its initials WBMG, a money-focused clique that would later evolve connections with Oskeno Gang for the younger generation. Within this structure, Nico earned his reputation as an OG enforcer, someone who stood on business, someone who rode for his brothers, someone who handled the dangerous missions that kept rivals at bay and maintained territorial dominance. But Nico was more than just a street soldier. He was a father to 2 young children who he spoiled relentlessly, a son named Baby Nico and a daughter named Arianique. Fatherhood softened some of his harder edges, motivated him to seek legitimate ways to earn money and build a legacy beyond the streets. This led him to pursue 2 creative outlets that would amplify his voice: rap music and acting. As an underground drill rapper, Nico embodied authenticity. He didn't have platinum plaques or mainstream radio play, but his street anthems resonated with those who lived the same life he did. His Instagram lives became legendary in Chicago's underground scene. He'd sip lean from a double cup, flash expensive Rolex watches, and deliver raw, unfiltered warnings to rivals while hyping up his WBMG brothers. He was also involved in Chicago's independent film scene, taking roles in hood films that required no acting because he was living the reality they portrayed. But success, even underground success, breeds envy. And in the treacherous world of Chicago's street politics, envy is more deadly than enemy bullets. The timeline of Nico's downfall begins with federal trouble. In June of 2018, he was indicted in United States versus Whitehead, case number 1:18-CR-00408, facing charges of possession with intent to distribute narcotics and firearm charges. He was detained without bond and eventually sentenced to federal prison time. When Nico was released, less than a year before his death, according to street sources, something had changed. Maybe it was the time behind bars that gave him perspective. Maybe it was the realization that he'd missed precious years of his children's lives. Whatever the reason, Nico came home different. He came home glowing up. The money started flowing again. Legitimate money from his creative ventures, street money from hustles, money that allowed him to shine in ways that made others uncomfortable. Expensive jewelry, nice clothes, women gravitating toward him. For someone who had spent years locked in the federal cell, Nico was making up for lost time. But in the hood, when one man rises, especially after a prison bid, whispers start. Jealousy festers. Old friends start to wonder why they're not eating like that. They start to question whether he talked to the feds to get out early. They start to resent his success. And then came the Instagram video that would prove to be chillingly prophetic.
You take me from my so-called friends, so I can get my own anyway. 9 times out of 10, the ops ain't gonna this shit. Be their own homies, snaked out. I peep that shit. Stay away from around.
In this video, posted to his social media accounts shortly after his release from federal prison, Nico spoke words that now sound like he was reading his own obituary. He warned his followers about fake friends, about how the real danger was not from enemy gangs, but from those closest to you. He spoke about anxiety being at 10 out of 10, and how homies snaked out, and how friends are worse than enemies.
Them niggas slept in bed together, bro. Them niggas slept in bed together, you hear me?
The people standing around him that night on Franklin Boulevard weren't strangers who happened to witness a murder. They were men who had known Nico since childhood. Men who had slept in the same beds during countless nights on the block. Men who had shared meals, shared blunts, shared the bond that's supposed to transcend everything in street culture. And yet, when the moment came, when their brother needed them most, they transformed into statues, silent witnesses to an execution they not only allowed, but may have actively facilitated.
His baby mama just come to my DM and said, everybody right there gonna pay.
Everybody right there. I told you it was all travelers right there, bro. That's why.
The street conversation revealed even more disturbing details. The men standing around Nico during his murder were all travelers, all vice lords, all supposedly his brothers. This wasn't an ambush by rivals. This wasn't an attack by enemies from a different gang. This was internal. This was family destroying family. And according to the raw footage and eyewitness accounts, something was terribly, deliberately wrong with the entire scenario.
Don't believe they ain't had no guns. I can't believe
Man,
that
them niggas
shit,
had
bro.
one pipe gang. They ain't had no guns out there, boy.
How?
And they usually had all type of shit.
All type of shit, blood.
They ain't had no guns out there, boy. That's how you know some crazy shit going on.
Street sources pointed out something crucial. For a gathering of hardcore gang members from one of Chicago's most active sets, there was a conspicuous absence of weapons among Nico's friends. In a city where over 600 murders occur every year, where shootings are as common as traffic accidents, the fact that an entire crew of street soldiers was essentially unarmed at a public gathering suggests something far more sinister than coincidence.
I knew it was something to it though, cause I'm watching like it's too many people just watching. Like y'all, ain't nobody even try. Like come on, Lord, y'all.
The theories began spreading through Chicago's underground almost immediately. Was this a sanctioned hit? Had the WBMG leadership decided Nico needed to go? Was the jealousy over his post-prison glow-up so intense that it warranted execution? Or was there something else? Whispers about potential cooperation with authorities, rumors about violations of street code, or simply the deadly reality that in Chicago's gang culture, sometimes loyalty is nothing more than a beautiful lie told until it becomes convenient to tell the truth. The investigation launched by Chicago Police Department's Area 4 detectives immediately hit the wall that stops so many cases in Chicago, the notorious no snitching code that permeates street culture. Although approximately 20 people witnessed the execution, despite the existence of video evidence, and despite the recovery of approximately 20 shell casings from the scene, the investigation stalled. Witnesses who should have been able to identify the shooter suddenly developed amnesia. People who were standing feet away from the murder claimed they saw nothing. The street code of silence transformed potential witnesses into obstacles, ensuring that justice remained elusive. The scale of the gathering that night makes the lack of cooperation even more disturbing. Estimates ranged from 500 to 1,000 people at the reunion, yet investigators struggled to find anyone willing to provide meaningful information. This wasn't a crime committed in darkness with no witnesses. This was an execution performed in front of a massive crowd, captured on video, and still, over 16 months later, no arrests have been made. The funeral service held at D. Johnson Funeral Home in September 2024 drew thousands of mourners and became its own viral moment. Nico's body lay in a gold-crowned casket, a final display of the royalty his street name Didon implied. His wife Shunqui kissed the casket goodbye, a heartbreaking image that circulated alongside the murder footage. Doves were released into the Chicago sky, a symbolic gesture of freedom for a man whose life had been defined by the constraints and codes of street culture.
Money game, bitch, worldwide. Bitch, I feel real. Hey, been on fucking Gia, bad bitch with Don chicks and all she do is eat. Never change on the game, cause that's how I be done. I'm so 100, I don't know how to be done. If a nigga play, I stay at fucking K. Touching on my back around the game, cause I don't play. So 100, nigga, I don't play. If I don't know you, I don't wanna know.
You gotta face the east.
Where
You know where the east at? Going towards downtown.
What you gonna do to him, bro?
Hey, Gucci.
Man, dude be high as shit, though.
You know where the east at? That motherfucker faces downtown, beloved.
This nigga retarded.
Oh shit. Hey, what y'all on, folks?
Girls be sweating bullets.
Nico's story is particularly haunting because it strips away the romantic notions of gang loyalty that permeate hip-hop culture and street mythology. There was no ride or die brotherhood when bullets started flying. Do you also think this was a sanctioned death or just pure betrayal from his friends? Let me know what you think in the comments section. Click on one of the cards on your screen to see more videos like this.